Okay, so many of you guys have been asking me how do I plan my week, because planning your week is one of the best ways to get your prefrontal cortex online, which is the part of your brain that's in charge of decision making, impulse control, emotional regulation, and thinking about the future. And it's one of the best ways to help manage like anxiety around finances, because a lot of what happens with our finances is that we look at it through the lens of subjective reality versus objective reality. The people who are better at managing their money are not better at math, they're better at managing their emotions. And this is how I learned the skill of doing that, is through planning my week. And so in my planner, there's a link in my bio, I know you're going to ask, the Clever Fox Planner. The first thing I start, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Start with the end in mind. There's a box that says this week's main goal. You got to think of one thing. If this week, if all shit went to hell, like if everything just totally collapsed this week, but I got this one thing done that would like make my week a success, what would it be? You write it down in your box, okay? And then you engineer your week. And the week, like even a few steps back, at the beginning of this planner, there's a part that's like, I don't do this part, it's a vision board, you can do that. But these are the goals that I've written down for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Everything I do is from that vision. Everything I do. And then I break it down into quarterly goals, and then I break it down into monthly goals, and then the week is the vehicle that gets me to my goals. Okay? And so what your main goal for this week should be an ingredient of the cake of the larger goals that you have for yourself. Okay? And so my goal right now is to build $1 million business. And so what am I going to do this week that's going to help move the needle significantly towards me doing that? And so I'm going to write that task down. Then once I write my main goal down, then I go into my calendar and I mark the immovable objects in my week. Those are my meetings. Those are my like time I spend with family, or like going to church, whatever it might be for you. I write down everything that cannot be moved. Then I write down all the things that are going to nourish me and make me sustained through the week. So spirituality, movement, health. Like, so when am I going to go work out? What time am I going to bed? I mean, that's already set in stone. I already know when I go to bed. It's the same time every night. And then when am I going to spend time on meditation, prayer, whatever your thing is? Then I write down when I'm going to get my work done. And for you, that might be an immovable 9 to 5, like you just box off, like you know you're going to be at work from these times. That might be the first thing you box off because it's an immovable object in your week. And then you notice how I go through this in layers of priority. It's like, health, work, spirituality, whatever your, layers are of your cake, friendship, business, and then you plan your week in order of that. I don't put my tasks in here. I put the time. I don't put my tasks, I put the time. This is where I block out the time of which I will work on that certain category. So like going to church might be like a task, but it's actually a time block, because when you go to church, you do many things during the service, whatever. When I go to work, there's many tasks I do at work. When I am in a meeting or whatever, there's many tasks. When I block out time to work out, there's many tasks I do during the workout. There's different sets, there's different weights, there's different groups. So this isn't the task list. This is the time. This is when am I going to spend time working on this category? That's the weekly planner. The tasks live somewhere else, okay? They live on a different list. They usually just live on a legal pad for me or some kind of notepad. But this is how I organize things. You start with the end in mind. What's your big goal of, like, if this week went to shit, but I only got this one thing done, what would make it a success? I put in the immovable objects. I go through my list of priorities and I mark out time for that. And then the tasks come from, like, every day I write down a list of tasks. What do I need to get done? And I check them off one by one. That's how I plan my week, and that's how I exercise my prefrontal cortex. Most of the time the plan doesn't go according to plan. That's okay. That's not the point. But this is how I plan my week.